Hello and welcome to our Reboot review. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we are discussing the episode AndrAIa. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that because they capitalize the AI in it. Anyway,
Yeah, marvelous case. It's marvelous case of you capitalize the particular letters when you really don't need to, but it fits within the episode within the two senses. So it's just why?
yeah. This episode originally aired November 9th, 1995 in Canada and November 11th, 1995 in the US.
Hmm.
Alrighty. Let us start off with the number one film at the box office, Dave. You've
Hmm.
definitely seen this because it's a Jim Carrey movie.
That is true, though I'm trying to remember the specifics of if it's the one big one, the other one big one, or the other particular big one, but not so much big.
It's a sequel to, I would say, probably one of his more famous films.
Okay, so I don't know its title exactly, but is it one of the Ace Ventura movies?
It is the second Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
Yes.
Yes. Moving along, let us discuss some video games. So, the next episode we have doesn't air until late December. So, I figured we'd
Mm,
quickly go through everything between now and then.
okay.
So, November 20th, if you were a Super Nintendo player, you could pick up a really great game. There's a little game called Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Quest, or Diddy Kong's Quest.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you played the like Donkey Kong Country games, right?
Surprisingly enough, I've touched on one or two, but it was one of the series that I never really had a chance to experience around that time.
Oh, interesting. So they are very, very good.
Hmm.
Um, Sometime in December, this little game came out. Oh my god, Dave, it's one of my favorite, and it came out initially on the Amiga. This little game called Worms.
Ah, yes. It is very much a thing, even up till today.
Yeah, they're still going strong, and I love Worms.
Yeah, very much.
On December 1st, you could pick up a little game called Mega Man X3.
Ah, yes, with three.
On December 9th, if you had a Super Nintendo, you could pick up Dragon Quest VI Realms of Revelation.
Yes.
I've never been a
One
Dragon
of the ones
Quest
I
guy.
do not remember.
December 9th, also, if you had a PC or a Mac, you could pick up Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness.
Ah, yes. With the Warcraftness.
You've never played Warcraft, have you? Like, you've played World of Warcraft, but not like original recipe Warcraft.
It was one of the cases that it was around Warcraft 3 that I have a bit of experience with, but
Okay.
nothing that I specifically got on my PC or never played myself aside from going over to a friend's house to at least try it.
Right, okay. So those are kind of all the major games that go up until the next episode. So let us move on to the number one song in America this week, Dave.
Hmm. Nothing is immediately coming to mind, and I wouldn't be surprised if the one from last week or last time stuck around.
It is still Fantasy by Mariah Carey.
Hmm.
Because, it's 1995 and it's Mariah Carey. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
let us move on to the episode. So Enzo is feeling depressed because he's lonely. During an underwater game, he befriends a game sprite named AndrAIa. When the game is won, he discovers she attached a backup copy of herself to his icon so they can remain together. Okay, so Enzo's all like depressed because there's no sprites his age or whatever, and he's all mopey, and he gets sucked
Mhm.
into a game, even
Yes.
though he's told to avoid them because he's a dumbass.
Well, he was told to not go inside of one of the games, but Bob kind of mentions, did you tell him to run away from a game if it's falling on top of him?
That's true. That is technically correct. Um, yeah, there's not a whole lot to this episode. He makes friends with his sprite in the game, and I mean, okay. There's a part where Bob's giving a lecture on how to survive a game, and there's a
Yeah.
biome with the "I heart you" written on her eyelids, which is taken from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which made me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. The particular things that decided to spoof in this episode in cases.
Oh, Bob also says "doe" in this episode,
Yeah.
which I was
Yeah.
like, that's interesting because like this is like peak Simpsons
Yeah.
because this is like season 6-ish. So yeah, this is
Yeah,
like
around
peak
that time.
Simpsons.
Again, it's not too surprising.
Yeah. Oh, you can also see a statue, or I think there might actually be more than one, but of King Ghidorah
Yes, with the
when they're
game that they
entering
go in.
the city, nearing the city of Atlantis.
Yes, yes.
I was so happy. But yeah, there's not really much about this episode. It's kind of like, yeah, they go on this adventure, they go through the game, this underwater game where they have to find the treasure of Atlantis, and Enzo makes a friend who is now in mainframe.
Yes.
I
So I think the first thing that I want to ask is the big thing within this episode that I wanted to ask about the series. With the ideas and concepts that show writers and other sorts of things could do to help out with the episode or give newer, fancier ideas, what are your thoughts about adding new characters to the story in certain kid series and other sorts of things?
um I understand why they would add her as a character,
Mhm.
but I think it's done kind of clumsily.
Just with the basis of the character and even with how much that they did supposedly say within the episode, it probably wouldn't be enough for a kid or maybe even a typical person to be like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I also don't understand how the whole like attaching a backup copy of herself to his icon thing works.
Yeah,
I
one
don't
of those
know
sorts of
I don't know
things.
why she couldn't just be some other girl who's in like mainframe and who Enzo just hangs out with.
Well, that comes to the other marvelous thing that I want to particularly comment about it. For any particular people that are curious about this show, about little things, if there's bits of story, there's about a minute to minute and a half little section where Bob and Dot are talking to each other and give a quick history about the history of mainframe, explaining why, hey, why is Enzo technically the only real kid within this series? And what's the case with having specific sorts of places around here? Well, as it stands, Dot's dad accidentally ran an experiment that caused half of Main Train to explode, creating the plane known as Locke's Nexus, where Hexadecimal hangs out. And along with her dad, a lot of the kids were also exploded. So Enzo does not have friends.
Yeah, but like you could have just been like, "Oh, Enzo and like these 3 kids survived, so we don't have to introduce someone in a super clumsy way." That's my thing.
They
Is like
could have. They did not.
yeah, it's just like I'm like I understand them wanting to have like a character Enzo's age for him to have stories with. Like that makes sense. And also bringing in like a young female character makes sense because that gives like a little girl who's watching the show someone to like identify with, which that
Yeah.
also makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, like fair enough.
Mm.
But I just think it's done really clumsily.
Okay. And then the other supposed case of, hey, going through all the lessons and whatnot of how games work, running through all the bases of how each of the characters kind of works. And then, of course, they touch on the title of the show, one specific side of the character, and what AndrAIa is an AI style character within a video game that learns and processes certain things so it can battle against the user better. So, actual sprite type character that's inside of a game, stepping out of the game and coming into a different sort of set. The ideas it could spawn.
Yeah, there's interesting potential there for stories later on, but yeah, I don't even like. she seems like an interesting enough character. I'm like, okay, I'd spend more time with this character, but I just think
Hmm.
her introduction isn't handled terribly well.
Hmm. No, that's understandable. Again, with how much she supposedly does within the game, running through a little base kit of what she could do within the game and other sorts of stuff from there. I think the one last real question I kind of had for you is what were your thoughts about Enzo's as Andrea's interactions together and how that sort of panned out within the episode?
I mean, they seemed fine. Like they're kids playing a video game. Like it felt very like, yeah, okay. Like they're I didn't like nothing about it like really made me angry, and I wasn't like, oh, this is brilliant either. I was like, yeah, this all makes sense and seems fine.
Okay. Because it was also an additional case of some liar reveal situations in both of their cases, with Enzo first meeting her with Enzo's energy zips past any of the important bits and just asks simple little questions. Oh man, how do your nails work? Are they like poison or some other sort of thing? But never asks the important question of who the heck are you? All the other sort of stuff. And then Enzo lying about being a guardian. Bob being the one stuck in a damsel dress that couldn't reach the floor.
Yeah, but
Then of course
that just seems
then of
like
course
the kind of stuff that a kid would say.
okay. So I
Like,
suppose the one particular question is the trope of a liar reveal or figuring out that sort of thing. Would that be something that you're all right with as the typical sort of trope, or it kind of depends on what character sort of uses it and how it sort of fits within the story?
I mean, I think it depends how it's handled. And in this case, it's like, yeah, Enzo gets revealed as like quote unquote a liar, but it's not like it's like, oh yeah, he told the story about like how he rebooted, like he became the damsel in the dress, but he said it was Bob, and I'm like, who really cares? Or like
Mm.
the only one that has any kind of like potential significance is him lying about being a guardian. But that gets
Okay.
revealed at the end of the episode, so I'm like, I don't really feel like there's. Yeah, I'm fine with it in this case because he's a little kid, and little kids say
Okay.
stupid shit.
Okay. In those sort of cases. I suppose the other particular question is what were your thoughts on the video game design through the latter half of the episode, with them either being in submarine ships and or being mermaids?
It looked pretty cool. I was like, this game looks like it would be fun.
Hmm. Going through that design. And of course, with this particular episode, oh my gosh, all the flipping call outs just from past episodes and other sorts of things. Mostly cherry picking from a couple particulars through, but it was interesting with Bob using it as the what sort of things to look out for inside of the game and recalling memories and other sorts of things. But oh man, the opening of the episode with it being a reintroduction of past episodes with acted characters.
What are you referring to? Because it's something
Um,
I must be missing something.
okay, so right at the start of the episode, it comes to a film set with the backslash of Dot's Diner
Oh, yes,
with
yes,
all
yes.
the actors and whatnot there. Out of curiosity, what were your thoughts on that particular scene, or did you essentially kind of forget about it?
I forgot that it was there, but when I was watching it, I was like, that's kind of like I was like, I don't really understand why this is happening. Because like, is Reboot a show within the show? Like, I don't really understand what the point of that was, but I didn't have like a problem with it.
Okay, because let me first of all just say that those characters are going to be coming back. I can't exactly say how long it's going to be, but they're going to be characters that are going to come back.
Okay, I have no problem with this. That seems fine.
Radios, radios. And on whole, I think that's about as much as I remember from the bits of the episodes of decent enough importance. So, as it sits, things from inside the game can come out of the game to come into computer sort of settings. Huh? That's got to be a thought. And we have an additional character to add to the roster.
Yes, at least for now. We don't know how long. Well, you probably do, but I don't know how long she's going to stick around for.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how things go along.
Alrighty. So, Until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And Dave, correct me if I'm not wrong, but the next episode is a 4-part deal, isn't it?
I believe so. We're getting into that particular bit of things.
Oh boy. Well, that's going to be a long one.
We'll see how it goes.
Alrighty. Until then, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.